G'day Battlers and welcome to the G'day Battlers podcast, episode 44. We're slowly approaching that 50 mark, which,
Wow.
I did look back to see what the sort of start date was, when the anniversary date was.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we were recording them, we were recording 2 to 3 months before we actually released the first one
That is
in
true.
that very first time. So I think by now we were actually recording them, so that's 2 years back, I think.
Oh, we should have a cake next time. We'll bring party hats.
Oh, okay. Tough to share, I guess, but we can figure it out when we get there. But anyway, I'm PvP Steve, joined by Debbie Pebble, and today we have quite a bit to discuss because in the last episode we talked about the Brisbane Regional Championships, and we focused pretty much entirely on the Brisbane Regional Championships. And so since then, a lot of tournaments have sort of taken place, and so we have a little bit to catch up on. But we should also address the fact that originally this episode 44 was going to be an interview with Godzilla. That was in the books. We were ready to go, but unfortunately we have had to postpone that. So hopefully we can get back to that in the future. But for now, we'll just cover all of these sort of tournaments, especially through Asia, but also through the US, that have actually been taking place in the championship series, and then also take a look at what is happening domestically as well, and some other little bits and pieces at the end. But look, Debbie, is there somewhere where you want to start?
Look, I'd love to start at Naughty Corner, but we're not. So
All right, perfectly. You've laid the hook. We can get back to it. Stay tuned for some Nautical Corner content that we have as well. Some special edition, I guess you could say, of the Nautical
we love
Corner.
additions.
We love
in this
additions here.
podcast.
Oh yeah, we'll see if this one has an addition in the title. Probably not, but we'll see. But look, let's kick it off. I want to say this is chronologically. I could be wrong on that, but it is how I've typed the list of tournaments. So I think it is probably chronological. Starting off with the India finals. So essentially, as we've sort of talked about before, the Asian region has sort of two stages of tournaments. The first stage is the qualifiers, Swiss tournament, and the top 16, usually, trainers from the qualifier tournament qualify for the playoffs, and the playoffs is where people actually get their world championship qualification. So we talked about the India qualifier last time, in that it was the first, I guess, official tournament of the Might and Mastery season, and so it had its finals in India, which is also like the super big one in that they actually get special treatment and they get 32 trainers going into the playoffs. So I'm not actually sure, obviously India is a massive population, and Japan is like the top tier Asian country in terms of how much love it gets on the championship circuit. India is number 2. The rest of Asia is bottom. Unfortunately. So India, at least, there are a lot of really strong battlers over there. So I am glad that they are getting some attention. But let's take a look at the India finals, Debbie.
Yeah, and with India, they get 4 placements. Is that correct for Worlds?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool.
Kind of 5, because Beal's a boy performed so well at Worlds that he has an auto qualification as well. So there
Did he compete?
He did compete. He came second in the qualifier, but he didn't quite make it to the top 4 in this tournament. He was in this tournament, but I think, I'm trying to find his name, he actually didn't quite make it to top 16. So I did really well in the first tournament, not as well in this one.
Yeah. And with such a big population, because unfortunately a lot of these Asian areas, they don't get regional. It's not the same format that we have in Australia. So this is it. If they don't qualify, that's it for the year. So it's a lot of pressure going into the playoffs, into qualification status, and just being in the top 4. I mean, it's good. It's better than 1. I know some other regions, they only take 1 in, but the fact that they get 4 is, well, like you said, 4 plus 1 is good. With this particular playoff, do they get any sort of travel award or prize money at all? Do you know?
I think first place does get travel award, and that's actually how Beal's a boy got to Worlds last season, because he won the playoff tournament, I believe. And so this time we have quite an attention-grabbing first place. First place, taking that potential travel award, being Master Mahir 295. And I've talked about this on not only on this podcast, but the other one as well. And I've talked about this everywhere. But
Yes.
Mikey Morgs is absolute Nostradamus
Hmm.
because in the lead up to the India qualifiers, he messaged me and he was like, "Hey, I've got two battlers that are sending me their footage." Um, and before any battles have been played, Master Mihir and Nava Empire. They're in the second qualifier. They come first and second.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's like, okay, insane. Like out of
Yeah.
128 people in that particular tournament, first and
Hmm.
second, that's crazy.
Mm.
Then they come to the playoffs, the grand finale. They come first and third, facing off in the winners finals as well. It's just like, such a read from Mikey Morgs. But anyway, with that said, Master Mahir came into the second tournament and won it with a Bastiodon, making it the second
Yay!
ever official win with Bastiodon in the championship series.
Finally, it's back up there.
Yeah, it's been quite some years. The first one was in the very first tournament in the Oceanic region ever in Perth 2022 from Rob
Mhm.
Drogo. And actually, I know he's competing this weekend in the Indonesia tournament, actually, but we
Yeah.
can talk about that later.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
yeah, Bastiodon, years and years later, has finally got another first place medal coming in from Master Mihir alongside a team of Lapras, Shadow Jumpluff, Shadow Sableye, Claydol, and Guzzlord, which is a very, very cool Pokemon running around with all of the Sableyes. We saw
Yeah,
Godzalama do really well with the Guzzlord in Brisbane.
we did. But just going back to the Bastiodon, Steve, why are you so happy about this? It's like almost like you may have predicted this previously.
Ah, I see. That's where you thought I was going, but which is also a Nostradamus thing, I suppose. But yeah, essentially at the start of the Might and Mastery season, 2 Butters hosted a bit of a panel discussion with a bunch of content creators. I think it was he. I feel like he messaged the Play Pokemon caster group, and then he also sort of messaged a few people directly, and that's sort of what I got from a message he copy pasted to me.
Mm,
But essentially, a bunch of really really smart people that do really well, really good team builders, people like Inadequates, like Tomahawk UK, Home Slice
mm,
Henry. And there was a lot of discussion about what was actually going to be good in this season. And at the end of the discussion, I looked at all of the stuff that we'd talked about. I looked at all of the Pokemon we said were going to be good. And I was like, um, hate to say it. I don't hate to say it. But I think Bastiodon could actually be pretty good here. And obviously, I was met with groans. I was like,
mhm.
oh, okay. Butters was saying I was just doing it for engagement bait. Um, Home Slice said, classic Australian. But hey, vindicated. And Bastion actually is really,
Mhm,
really good because there aren't a lot of fighters roaming around. And so,
mhm.
into so many teams, Bastion actually looks really safe and incredibly usable. So, hey, I know when to pick him sometimes. And this is one of those times. It was definitely ripe for some Bastiodon running around. And I think that he actually talked about the fact that he sort of targeted his pick. He sort of targeted it for uh, anti Bill's a Boy, who I think was running Talonflame in the first stage. He didn't actually run it here. I guess it's also
Yeah,
decent into Carbink, I guess. But yeah, I think
yeah.
it was a targeted Bastiodon, but
Mm, 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 mm.
it worked out for him.
Did work out for him. And also something in particular is that I think with Azumarill, no one's running like Hydro Pump.
No.
Everyone's running classic set of Ice Beam Play Rough. So really, Basti has a lot of range. Obviously, you want to stay away from any particular mud boy slash mud slappers, but even that, you only have to look out for one Pokemon.
Hmm. You've got pretty good odds if they've only got one counter on their team.
Hmm.
And even then, sometimes you're able to get a bit of a setup off of that. Pokemon like, I'm looking at the graphic here, and there's actually a few Kanto Marowaks in here, which is kind of interesting because it does
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's fallen out of favor a little
Hmm.
bit. When Kanto Marowak actually loses pretty hard to quite a few Pokemon, and like one
Hmm.
Pokemon that comes to mind that is on Master Mihir's team is the Jumpluff. And
Mm.
Jumpluff can sort of absorb and take on those Mudslappers quite well. Not as good as the Clodsire, but he has other answers for Clodsire. He's got the Mud Slapping Claydol himself, and
Hmm.
so Claydol does pretty well into the
Yeah.
Clodsire. So like he does have bodyguards for these other Pokemon, and so
Mm.
I think it's really interesting. Unfortunately, we haven't seen the footage yet. I know that Mikey Morgs does have it on his end. He told me
Hmm.
that he was going to be uploading a video at like today. So,
Okay.
actually,
Okay.
he told me he was going to upload it yesterday. But
Okay.
I haven't seen it yet. But I look forward to sort of
Mikey, if
seeing
you're
how
listening,
much.
if this podcast is up before that video is up, We're gonna have words.
Yeah, we've got problems. We're about to have beef. I think I mentioned it the other day on stream while he was around, but I was like, man, I had that footage, it'd be up instantly. I'd be on that content creator grind. I've got to get this thing out. But yeah,
Mhm.
we'll hopefully see it eventually. But of course, Master Mahir not the only one to qualify
Mhm.
for the World Championships here. We also had XX Daniels Leaf,
Mhm.
XX, who's running the Azumarill, Mandibuzz, Credilli, Malamar, Clodsire, Alolan Sandslash. Nothing too big there.
Mhm.
Nava Empire, Azumarill, Jumpluff, Furret, actually making it in here.
Mhm. Mhm.
Shadow Sableye, Clodsire, and Alolan Sandslash. I know that Homeslice Henry put up a video talking about how Furret, qualified for Worlds.
Yep.
We've got Fake XX Soul coming in fourth and getting that last qualification spot with the Azumarill, the Talonflame, Credilli, Shadow Sableye, Swalot, and Guzzlord. And look,
Woo,
you'd
swallow.
hate to be running a Talonflame when the big guy's running Basti.
Yeah, yeah, that's true as well. But yeah, I think that was besides Jumpluff. Oh yeah, and Mandibuzz. I was like, oh, what other flyers were there in the top four? But yeah, Talonflame. I suppose. Yeah. Did they actually match up? Fexall and Master Mihir?
They weren't in the unless they faced like earlier on in the tournament,
Mm.
which is possible, but I don't think they actually faced because
Okay.
Master Mahir actually went on a straight winners run. He didn't drop down to
Right.
losers at all,
Yeah, that makes sense.
so Basti actually undefeated. Just
Mm-mm-mm.
obviously Australians rise up.
Yep. Yep.
I was actually talking to someone because I was trying to remember how did Australia get a reputation for Bastidon, and obviously the like one piece of the answer was the Rob Drogo winning a tournament with Basti. So it's like,
Yes.
oh, makes sense. And then I was talking to someone and they were like, I think it's that tweet, man, that you made of the Australian locals that one time when
Oh,
when locals just started, there were like 3 Bastiodons on 6 teams, and they were like, "Well, that's what I thought." But I
I
feel like
thought
we had the reputation before that.
I thought it also was from Triple Crit.
Oh, that's true. He came second in Melbourne, and
Yeah.
actually, was that was right before the locals as well. Okay, so
Yeah.
I think it
Correct.
was it was the snowball. So we
Yeah.
had so obviously there was the background story of we had a Bastiodon win, and
Hmm.
then Triple Crit won, came second place with Bastiodon, and
Yeah.
literally the next month we had a graphic with a bunch of Australian teams running Bastiodon.
Yeah.
So and that
Inspired by Triple Crit.
yeah, inspired by Triple. I think he was on the graphic.
Yeah.
I want to say, actually, I think Yakko actually beat him that weekend, if I recall. With
Yeah.
one of his teams would have had Basti with like hard RPS, if I'm remembering the right graphic. But
Yeah. I think it was he brought in a meme team, um, but that won
yeah,
against Yakko. And then he brought in a proper team which lost against Yakko or something along those lines in the first lot of locals when locals was introduced.
yep, that checks out. But yeah,
Mhm.
anyway, Australians, all cheering, I'm sure, for the Master Mahir's Basildon win. Very cool to see it get a big win in there. But look, India, very large tournament. Hopefully, we see a few of these guys make it to Worlds. I
Mhm.
know that there is a little bit of a difference this season in that if someone straight up, like if at the very start they put their hand up, they come top 4, they say I can't actually attend. It
Mhm.
actually does pass on to the next person in the tournament.
Oh, that's
So,
nice.
which is a very good change, but I think it sort of has to happen like pretty soon. Like it
Early.
sort of has to happen
Yeah.
straight away. So
Mm-mm.
if it like if visa issues becomes the problem, I don't
Mm.
think that they would be able to pass on to the next person. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll see how many of them
Mhm.
do get to attend, how many Indian representation we get. Again,
Mhm.
and again, Beelzer Boy will be there as
Yes.
well, ready to
Mhm.
show that he's still got the stuff, which he definitely did in the first tournament. And
Mhm.
sometimes you can just have a bit of a hard run, which
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it's also nice to have that banked, like being
that's right.
like, I'm already qualified. I can actually go in with, a what do you call it? Something
There's the
underneath.
reassurance, right?
Yeah. 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 I'm
Yeah.
trying to find the right word for it, and it's not parachute.
Um. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's a backup parachute in a sense. Okay. Even if the primary doesn't work, I've still got this guy ready to go. I'll still be at the
Mhm.
World Championships, and we'll be ready to go. But
Mhm.
I guess I'm actually going to go out of order here because I
Oh.
want to go with the segue of the other person in the Asian region that also got an auto qualification, Yakai.
Mhm,
actually
mhm,
decided to not compete in his tournament this year. He actually told us like that back at Worlds. He was sort
mm,
of like, I'm actually going to be busy with school around that
mm,
time,
mm,
so
mm.
I'll just let everyone else compete, and he's
Yeah.
going to stay as the dark horse going to the World Championships. And
Mhm,
so
mhm,
the APAC qualifier
mhm,
also took place in these last few weeks with no Yakai involved, which means that someone else is going to be ripe, ready to score up and take the win. For those that don't know what the APAC region is, in
mhm,
this case, it's a different instance than it's usually used in. It's just a combination of four different Asian countries,
mhm.
or four different Asian regions, depending
Yep,
on your definition, that can are just grouped up, and there's joint qualifications from there with
yep.
Hong Kong, Malaysia, Philippines, and Singapore.
Mhm,
All sort
mhm.
of, this is their track to qualifying
Yes.
for Worlds.
Mhm. And the great thing is that in the top 16, there's one of each country at least.
Well, that's true, actually. Yeah,
Mhm,
there's. It doesn't get a lot more than that, because this is something that was pointed out by NG Bri, who was at the
mhm,
Brisbane Regional Championships,
mhm,
is that 10 out of the 16 trainers that qualified from this qualifiers
mhm.
into the next stage are from Hong Kong.
Yep.
So he sort of was like, hey, the Yakai influence is strong. He's
Mhm,
inspired the Hong Kong region to really get in there, get some qualification through. And so they didn't win. They didn't come second. They only had one in the top four, but they had
mhm.
a massive portion of that top
Yeah.
16. So
Hey, look, with the
definitely cool to
qualifier,
see.
anything can happen.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, it's not usual that the person that wins one always wins the other. I mean, we saw
Mhm,
it happen in India, I guess, with
mhm,
Master Mihir, but things can also always play out a little bit differently. And so in the APAC region, we may not have
mhm,
had a Basti up top, but we did have someone sweeping the entire thing, Walker0623, with
mhm,
an Azumarill, Claydol, Dugong, Shadow Drapion, Shadow Jumpluff, Shadow Annihilate.
mhm.
But Basti got pretty close, Debbie. It came in second.
Yep. It is a triple crit.
Oh yeah. Oh, also a Caleb Peng, also a Tomahawk UK. Also, I mean, Bastidon is a perennial second placer. But
Maybe that needs to be in a graphic, the bridesmaid of, like, Basti.
hmm. Well, I actually remember after Tomahawk got his second place finish, I did make a graphic of all of the winners, everyone that has ever won with a Bastidon, and it was like a
Mhm.
full size graphic, as
Yeah.
if there was going to be a lot of teams in there, and then just one little part was just the one team from Rob Drogo. It did go through my head. I don't remember if Tristan suggested it or you
Mhm.
suggested it, maybe the recreating that graphic. Um, I think the time's passed now, but
Yeah, yeah,
it was a funny idea.
it was. But yeah,
Alas.
good to see that. Now with third place, our WTF heel going with the Shadow Blastoise,
Yeah.
Shadow Kanto Marowak, the Shadow Alolan Sandslash. Oh, wait, this whole team Shadow. Hold on, Shadow Drapion. Took
I
me
was
to the
I was
third one to
waiting for
figure it out.
the
Shadow Jumpluff and Shadow Sableye. Wow, props,
yeah.
massive props.
6 shadows is kind of awesome. At some point, you're just like, I'm going to commit because,
Yeah, yeah.
if you've got a team with 5 shadows in there, well, I think a general opinion is that regular Alolan Sandslash is better than the non-shadow Alolan Sandslash.
Mm.
But I feel like when you've got a team with so many shadows in it already, sometimes you're just like, well, I think we go all in. And they managed to go 6-1 in the Swiss tournament. So pretty
Mm-mm.
awesome. And it was actually Silent, where Silent has 3 E's, three
Mhm,
threes instead of the E. I guess they're Silent threes, eh?
mhm.
But was running the Azu, Claydol, Bastidon, Guzzlord, Shadow Jumpluff, and Golisopod, which
Mhm.
also interesting to see Golisopod still roaming around. It
Yeah.
felt like a Pokemon that was succeeding in the halfway meta in
Yes.
Vancouver and Fortaleza,
Mhm.
but still apparently pretty decent with that really fast activation. So
Mm-mm.
still there.
Yeah.
And then, is there any other notable Pokemon out of this top 16? I'm just sort of like eyeing around. There's a few Stunfisks in there. I see a Wigglytuff,
Charjabug. Eh.
Chargebug. There is an interesting team from Annie,
Mhm.
C84, who sort of
Mhm.
just snuck in. They're 16th place in this
Ooh,
tournament with
yeah.
the Wigglytuff, Swampert, Frostlass. Is that Hakamo'o or Jangmo-o?
I think that's a Hakamo'o.
Okay, so the middle guy,
Mhm.
and there's as well as Corviknight and Furret. So a very cool team
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
make it into this stage of the tournament, and NG Bri 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 also did qualify with the Galarian Wheezing. So, this is a tournament that we'll see followed up in a few weeks' time. I do have it in my calendar when all of these Asian tournaments are, but I can't
Mm-hmm.
quite remember off the top of my head because they are very, very constant. It is every weekend something is happening. It's actually next
Mm-hmm.
weekend. So next Saturday, the APAC region will sort of, find their champion, I suppose. So looking forward to seeing that one. But any other last comments about the APAC region before we move
Just
on?
remind me how many qualify from APAC regional
I think it's two.
two, so top two, right?
Yep. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see how that goes next week. Their performance in this Swiss tournament actually does dictate how they are seeded in the playoff
Right.
tournament, which is
Mm-hmm.
double elimination. So it's not like first and 16th doesn't matter. It
Mm-hmm.
does matter. It does in some sense, like quote unquote, make it an easier tournament in the sense that theoretically the number one seed is theoretically stronger than the 16th seed. You
Mm-hmm.
know, statistically, that's just sort of how things work. But
Yeah.
that isn't really how it works in these sorts of very large tournaments where,
Mm-hmm.
it's Swiss. You're sort of getting thrown around a little bit. You might get a little bit unlucky in round one. You might have to face a Bastion team that is your one weakness. And so I don't think it's a great way to put things, but it does. If you can go 7-0 against some really, really strong competitors, it
Mm.
definitely means that you're a pretty strong battler and are definitely going to be the one with the biggest target on your back in the
Mhm.
APAC region. And so that brings us to the third and final tournament from Asia that we're going to talk about today, which is the South Korean qualifiers. I
Mhm.
keep tripping myself up on which one's which, but
Mhm.
I just have to remember the one that's called qualifiers is the one that shouldn't be called qualifiers because it isn't where you qualify for worlds.
Mm.
it's where you qualify for the playoffs, where you play off for worlds. So
Okay.
okay, man.
Right. So this particular one means that they have to play again later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
Cool. Cool.
So
All right.
16 players again coming from a
Mhm.
tournament of I think it was in the 80, 90, 100 sort of
Mhm.
region of players that were in this tournament.
Mhm.
And we saw Charming Pori actually
Mhm.
take it out with another 7-0 sweep. So in the Indian qualifiers, we saw a lot of tied victories in terms
Mhm.
of no one swept the entire thing.
Yeah.
In South Korea and APAC, we've actually seen some 7-0s start to
Mhm.
rise up. So definitely going to be interesting to see these battlers sort of push on through. But Charming Pori was running the Azumarill, Diggersby, Dugong, Shadow Drapion, Chargebug, and Malamar, which is it's a bit of a more interesting team than that hardcore meta one.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix of new and old meta, I feel like. So it's quite interesting, and I think it's almost like a lit. I wouldn't say similar to Godzilla but like it's just yeah, a little bit of a mix. Again, Diggersby. I think you can talk more about that one.
Yeah, I do have I put a video together of Charming Pori's run.
Mhm.
So that's out on YouTube. But Diggersby is a very interesting pick in that it has some very strong matchups into some of the big Pokemon. So Drapion, obviously, it is very, very good into Drapion. You've got that Scorching Sands that can hit super effective damage. Same deal for Clodsire. Clodsire was actually the third most used Pokemon that hit this top 16 in the South Korean region.
Wow.
So, well, wow in one sense, but wow also, wow, Diggersby's eating. This is really Diggersby's time because not only did it come first, but it came second. There was a third one in the top 8. There's another 2 in the top 16 as well. So there were quite a few Diggersby in this particular meta.
Hmm.
And interestingly, there was the same amount of Chargebug as Diggersby,
Hmm.
which is I thought was kind of interesting. And I was sort of like, I asked Charming Pori, I was like, why do you think that there's so much more Chargebug here than in other tournaments that are happening in the same weekend? And he was just kind of like, I don't know, man. There's a lot of water. And I was
Mm,
like, oh, I mean, that's true.
yeah.
Azumarill is the number one usage everywhere. There's quite a few battlers running around with double water strats.
Mhm.
I know that we
Mhm.
saw Azumarill Lapras quite a bit at the Brisbane Regional Championships, and
Mhm.
I'm not seeing. Are there any Lapras here in this top 16, or are there literally zero? I can't find one.
I think you're correct. There's no
Yeah, there's
Lapras.
literally no Lapras.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everyone has opted out of Lapras. I suppose I think the second most particular water type is actually Dugong.
Yeah, I think you're
after his
right.
own role.
Dugong actually coming in with a bit of ice coverage and a bit of ground coverage, so also giving you that same coverage into the poisons, while also having some ability to fight back against Credilli, Pokemon like Jumpluff and Mandibuzz, where Mandibuzz is a Pokemon that seems to be seeing a lot more usage in Asia than it is seeing in the rest of the world as well, which I think is kind of interesting. I
Mm.
know Mandibuzz is a Pokemon that I thought was going to be really big in the Might and Mastery season, but it hasn't held true very much for the rest of the world, but in Asia, it's been massive. Wait, is my prediction sense just linked to Asia? Bastiodon Mandibuzz? Is that? Wait a minute.
It's APAC. Woo.
Yeah, I might be cluing into something here, but
Mhm,
there were a
mhm.
few other waters as well. I know that Yetaruna, who is definitely a team that we should be talking about, she was
Yes.
running the Shadow for Alligator Swampert line double water.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Oh, a very similar team to Brisbane. I think the particular change is the Whimsicott got brought
Hmm.
in instead of I can't remember what it was previously, but yeah, a Whimsicott's an interesting one to bring.
Um,
It's the only Whimsicott on this on this graphic.
It's the only Whimsicott on any graphic in quite a while, to say the least. I don't think that that's one that's been seeing a lot of usage, even in like practice tournaments and stuff. I feel like I haven't been seeing Whimsicott around, but
Mhm,
it's a bit of an interesting read. Obviously, again, it's another Pokemon that can hit all of those water types
mm,
that are running around quite decently. You've got the fairy coverage for the fighters, the rogue fighter that might be around, but also Malamar, which I think a bit of a story that's been happening recently is that Malamar is really creeping up in usage quite a bit.
mm.
And so having access to the ability to hit those Annihilates, um, sorry, the Malamars
Yeah,
for
the
some pretty
dark
decent
types.
damage
Mm,
is kind of interesting. And Guzzlord as well, which is also, there have been quite a few in recent weeks doing
mm.
quite well. And so she did put it on the team instead of the Annihilate that she was
Ah,
running at the Brisbane Regional Championships. And I
mhm,
think the other five are the same. She
mhm,
is still running the Seed Bomb Aura Wheel Morpeko that she was
mhm,
running at
mhm,
Brisbane. So, she hasn't opted for that cheaper Psychic Fangs. And so she does have a lot of charge attacks that activate at the five fast move territory, 10
mhm,
turns. But yeah, very interesting team. She did manage to clinch top 8 here,
mhm,
and so she will be competing in the next stage. And I'm definitely rooting for Yetaruna. I'd love
mhm.
to see her, grab that qualification spot, head up to the World Championships again. So I guess we should also. I don't think we've talked about the other um, interesting Pokemon that are in this one because I think there's a lot more unique picks in South Korea than there were in APAC, and
Mhm,
especially at the top of the line because second place, PSNX Legend Push, who
mhm.
not to be confused with RNX Legend Push, who came second to last year, and
There's a lot
or
of legend
also
pushes.
yeah, HJNX Legend Push
Mhm,
in this top 16 as well.
mhm,
I'm not sure if they're like a gang, if it's an LNDS of the Koreas, but we've got a bunch of them here. And
mhm,
PSNX version came in with the Florges
mm.
alongside an Emolga team, which is kind of just awesome. It's
Yeah.
another fairy window. Again, you've got that Malamar coverage. It hasn't I haven't seen it get picked up anywhere else. And I'm kind
Mm.
of wondering if it's a bit more memey than like legit. I don't.
One of our locals runs Florges,
Okay.
and he's a VG player that
Ah.
comes into our locals. And when he picks his team, he goes from like I suppose from a very knowledgeable Pokemon background.
Hmm.
So he's not looking at PV Poke for meta. He's just kind of like, oh, what Pokemon would be good for coverage, and he's just
Mm.
like, oh yeah, Florges makes sense. And there have been times where I've been like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll play this, and it's like floor just in the back. I'm like, oh man, it's like, oh, I
Like
didn't,
it's
I
got
didn't
similar
account for this.
Whimsicott coverage, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you're like running lots of water types, you just kind of like, right, okay. So yeah, having that in the back is an interesting choice. So yeah, I've seen it. Haven't seen it to this potential, but definitely have seen it.
Fair enough. Well, I guess the next question is: have you seen a Lucario? Because Lucario placed third place in the hands of Goji 0408, who won last year's South Korean playoffs.
Mm-mm.
So he was at Worlds, but Lucario is a bit of an interesting one that I haven't seen in Show 6 in quite a while, I don't think.
I feel like definitely in APAC or like previously in Japan, a lot of Lucario there, so it might be inspired from that particular region. But yeah, they love a Lucario over there,
Yeah.
and
Well, I
it's
know
so,
there's
so glassy. I can't do it.
yeah, I can't really get behind it. But again, I guess there's sort of that read in there where fighters
Mm,
aren't being used very much. Some teams will be a little bit weak to it, and some teams just, won't be able to fight back against the
mhm.
bulk that is the steel type in the
Mhm.
Lucario. So you've got some interesting typing there, I guess. But as soon as you meet a Mud Slapper, you're in trouble. But
Yes.
I'm looking around, and there's not actually a lot of Mud Slap in this tournament at all. There's
Mm.
a couple of Marowaks running around, including on Goji's team. But
Mhm.
Mudslap is way lower in this tournament than it has been in others. I only
Yeah.
see one Claydol on the top 16
I
graphic.
can I can see one Gastrodon. It's
Yeah,
just a very good read into their particular meta. In like each region has their own meta. I feel like very
yeah.
niche pick. So obviously he's known about a few other teams and being like, okay, this is the read, and managed to get third, which is incredible.
Yeah, and definitely a very, very, very strong battle as well. I
Mhm.
remember seeing some of his battles last year, and he's definitely a strong contender, and someone to watch out for as they sort of
Mhm.
carry on. But there's a few other jump offs running around. There's a
Mhm.
Registeel in this top
Mhm.
16. A
Mhm.
Metacham crawled into the top 16 as well.
Hey.
But I don't know. Is there anything else interesting here? Actually, another point of interest, I suppose, is in the
Mhm.
top six is Mung Mi, who
Mhm.
not many people would recognize the name Mung
Mhm.
Mi, but that's actually Sejun Park.
Ah, no Pachirisu.
Yeah, no Patricio on this one, but he has
Mhm.
competed a few times here in the
Mhm.
South Korean ones. Someone told me, I haven't fact checked this, but I heard someone say that he actually qualified for Pokemon Go Worlds
He
one
did.
year.
Yes, that's correct.
That was that 2022 or
I feel like it was possibly the year after, but I
2023?
remember a tweet and he's like, "Oh, I've qualified in, yeah,
Yeah.
Go."
Apparently, he competed in Unite the year that he qualified for Go as well. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah, it
he
was
actually
3.
qualified for two different games
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
one year. Um,
Living the
Kind of
dream.
crazy. Yeah, the guy's a Pokemon Go legend. I'd love to see him sort of complete the quartet. He's competed
Mm,
in VG, he's competed in TCG at Worlds, he's competed in Unite at Worlds. If he
yeah.
competes in Go at Worlds, he's completed the full Infinity
Mhm.
Gauntlet, I guess.
Yeah.
No opportunity to compete in Pokken anymore, I suppose. But
Hey, like,
very cool.
what Pokken goes down, TCG Pocket coming right up.
Yeah, I'm sure he's already practicing, ready to, get a world's qualification in pocket as well. But
Mhm.
look, he's definitely he is the Pokemon god in many
Mhm.
senses. So
Very much so.
master master of the entire Pokemon franchise. Very cool to see him here. And he was
Mhm.
running like a pretty, standard team with Azumarill, Cradilly, Sandslash, Drapion, Golisopod, and Malamar as well. So
Yeah.
we'll see what they do pull out in the finals. But
Mhm, mhm.
in essence, that is sort of the Asian region for the
Yeah.
last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it'll be it's pretty cool to see Charming Pori take it out. Previously, I don't know if it's well known that he changed his name. Previously was Singaporey, and he was in the Brisbane Regional top 12 in the previous year. So we have
Yeah,
seen Charming Pori before. So it's pretty cool to see someone that's played in a Oceania Regional take the first place in their own home regional. So that's pretty cool.
yeah, absolutely. And I didn't ask, but maybe that's another sort of LNDS gang running around where like because I know Charming Chinder is out there, so maybe Charming. Actually, was there
Uh,
another person in this
There's
tournament that
Charming
had
Poem
Charming?
in the
Yeah,
this
there's another charming person here
yeah.
as well. So I'm
I
like,
see, I see.
maybe there's something there as well. Something, you can let us know if you've
If I
got any
change my
input.
name to Charming Pebble, will I play better?
Yeah, I've been eyeing up that LNDS PvP Steve this whole time. There's
Okay. Alright, alright.
we can get it done surely.
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, at some point, like they can't stop me from using their name. They'll just be like, "Hey,
Wait,
guys, I'm
how
joining
many
the gang."
how many times can you change your name and go?
Not super often, I don't think.
Okay, alright.
We'll look into it. It could be
Okay.
kind of funny. But regardless, again, that does sort of take out the Asian region. And I think actually today there's going to be the South Korean finals and
Mhm.
also the Indonesia qualifiers, where we
Yes.
will see Rob Drogo is signed up
Go,
And
Robbie.
he is running the Bastion. I did check the team sheets, so we'll
It could happen again. We could get a third.
we could get a third with 2 out of 3 being Rob Drogo. Which,
Mhm,
look,
mhm,
I can't say I'm not rooting for the guy. Going to be hard to take out Find Panic, who I think
mhm,
has taken out 2 out of the 3 Indonesia, the playoffs all time.
mhm,
So
mhm.
it's going to
Is
be a
there
tough
only
one to
one
get
that
through. But
qualifies from Indonesia?
no, I think it's 2 again.
2. Okay.
Um,
Oh, yeah, let's go.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But we'll see if he
Mhm,
can take out the first stage. I guess I
mhm,
think it's again a case where he has to hit top 16. So
mhm.
we'll be cheering for Rob Drogo from here because he's been there for quite a while.
Yeah, yeah. So he's moved away from Perth back in pretty much like 2023
Yeah.
for work purposes, and yeah, has just kind of been flying around Southeast Asia for business, and it's just really hard to, I suppose, like be qualified in the Oceania scene given locals are so important, and you need to attend at least 2 regionals to qualify for worlds, in my opinion. So yeah, it's just difficult. So I think this is the best chance he has to qualify for Worlds is to do the Indonesian qualifier.
Yeah, well, he's over there, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
you're not allowed to compete in the Indonesia qualifier because you happen to be in Indonesia. Like, you,
yeah,
you sort of
yeah.
got to have,
Well, it's
you've
been
got
there
to be
for
up there.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, like, I'm just to clarify,
yeah,
this isn't some loophole of being like,
yeah.
hey, I think I can just go to some Asian country and try and take their,
Mhm,
Ewing
mhm,
that qualification spot. It is like
mhm.
actually locked in. He is
Yeah,
competing
yeah.
legitimately. But that does bring us to Atlanta, which just
Mhm.
took place last weekend and
Yes.
is the biggest Pokemon Go regional of all time,
Yeah,
or
that's a lot of people.
at least official one. I think
Mm,
technically you could get away with. I want to say that one of the Arena regionals might have been bigger than that.
mm,
So
mm, mm.
the regional title is sort of maybe a bit skewed, but certainly in the championship series, it is the
Mhm.
biggest regional championship.
For now.
I want to say taking the record from Europe, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think there's some confusion around what the biggest European regional is,
Mhm.
depending on whether you count no shows or not,
I
where the
see.
number actually sits. But
Mhm.
regardless, Atlanta did sport sort of a full 220 registered players and had some. Well, not they didn't quite get to the 256 that would sort of get that
Mm-mm.
extra little bit of bigger top cut, but
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about that later because already, Debbie, it's actually lost its title. I've realized that as we're recording this, it's
Yeah.
no longer the biggest regional of all time. It
Mhm.
was until today, literally today, when Monterey has surpassed
Yeah.
them. So
That's why I said for now.
yeah, it's not even for now; it's for yesterday.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's
I
the
was like,
record's already shattered.
okay, this is a bit old data, but that's okay."
Yeah, but hey, it's still pretty cool. It does. The
Mhm,
North American scene is growing, which is cool to see, and
mhm,
we saw a lot of a lot of really cool battles. Obviously, we had look, again, we don't need to do the no spoiler sort of thing. In my head, I know I've talked about this like probably a year ago now.
mhm,
In my head, I'm always thinking of the story, and I'm like,
mhm.
oh, well, we should build up to the winner, but we know who won. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Elam.
Goilla!
Yeah,
Second
so
one.
he won. This is his second first place in a row in the regional
Mhm,
championship
mhm,
series. The last one he competed in, he won. This one, he
mhm.
won, and he hasn't placed any worse than top 6 all season,
Yeah.
which is just insane. Like
Mhm,
that's
mhm.
kind of he's competed in like 5 tournaments, and one of them was an IC, I think.
Yeah.
So kind of
I know Soph
crazy.
Toph has been like, just, every time anyone would say, like, who's the best player in NA or anything, she would be saying Ilum, where everyone else would be like, oh, yeah, there's like Doonbug, there's Rise, and like, Soph has always been really hard on Ilum. So, yeah, just goes to show. She's on it.
Audio viewers would notice nothing, but video viewers, we did have to make a quick stop and start. So we're back again, though, talking
Mhm,
about Atlanta. And yeah, Elam took the big victory over Out of Pocket,
mhm,
who was running probably the team of the tournament.
mm,
Is I think the best way that you could describe it, in that he had a team of Azumarill, Claydol, Credilli, Shadow Drapion, Shadow Sableye, and Alolan Sandslash. And I
mhm.
call it the team of the tournament because there were so many people on stream performing well with the exact same team, taking it from Out of Pocket. It was,
Mhm.
the out of pocket team is essentially
Mhm.
what it was. So like, there are people like Nighttime Clasher,
Yes.
Nighttime Clasher's brother, Sustenance Eater, who was also playing and doing really well. Like
Mhm.
it was very around. And in
Mhm.
some sense, it's almost not a big surprise because
Mm.
the meta was pretty small in some ways.
Yeah, look, it's will be different now or
Mm.
moving forward, but I feel like it does get to that point or a peak where like, okay, this is the team we run, because it does cover and like have all the like right points, and with these cracked players, they're just gonna then once they get a few like battles under their belt, they're like, "Yep, okay, let's roll." And the fact that Out of Pocket came second, Nighttime Clasher came fifth. Um, I mean, Nighttime Clasher has come fifth a few times now. He'll get that medal eventually.
Yeah, one day, buddy, he'll reclaim his first place glory.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but
yeah.
yeah, definitely a very strong team, and I think this is a point that I think has come out. Well, I guess I tweeted it, but Sovtov at the end of day one, they had this
Mhm,
sort of cast a discussion. They had
mhm,
Speedy's chief, Butters, Caleb, Soph, and they were
mhm,
talking about like what are your Speedy asked them, what are your thoughts on like what we've seen day one, and it starts off with the Caleb, and Caleb's like, it starts off with Butters maybe. No,
mhm,
Caleb. And he's like, man, like this meta is so crazy. There's so many, like such a variety in picks. Like anything can
mhm,
apparently succeed, which was a true take.
mhm,
And then Softof was like, oh, I was going to say the opposite. And it really feels like the meta's condensing. There's only a few picks that are really standing out at the top,
mhm,
and everyone seems to be using them. So it feels a little bit solved. And then
mhm,
Caleb was like, I was going to say the opposite. No, actually. And then Butters was like, oh, no, I'm actually with Caleb. Like
mhm.
it seemed like anything was succeeding. Like you could bring the most random pick and see it succeed. And
Mm,
so I sort of made that tier list of the championship points where you sort of
mhm,
add up every player's championship points running Azumarill, every
mhm.
player's championship points running Lapras, etc.
Yep.
for every Pokemon.
Mhm,
And there's like 6 or 7 Pokemon that have so many more points than everything else.
mhm.
But there's a lot of Pokemon with like tiny fractions of success, which just means like, 1 or 2 players with big success with this one
Yeah.
unique Pokemon.
Mm-mm.
And so it's sort of my conclusion looking at the tournament and looking at the meta was that they were all correct in that
Mm-mm.
the core meta has like in this meta game, hard
Mhm.
solidified in that
Mm-mm.
these were the top picks that is absolutely everywhere. It's the Azumarill, the Credilli, the actually was Credilli even in there? Maybe it wasn't. maybe
Yeah,
Credilli actually
yeah, yeah,
fell
yeah,
off.
Credilli,
I
yeah.
think it was in there. Yeah. I
Mhm,
should have pulled up the graphic. Oh, here it is.
mhm,
So yeah, it was the Azumarill, the Sableye, actually, the
mhm,
Claydol, Shadow, mostly non-Shadow, Alolan Sandslash, Shadow
mhm,
Drapion, Credilli, and Jumpluff were leagues ahead of every other Pokemon in terms of the sort of usage to success mark.
mhm,
And then there's just a lot of stuff that, like, for example, Tomahawk UK, he was running
mhm,
Alolan Ninetales and came
mhm.
fourth.
Yeah,
He's the only person in the tournament running Alolan Ninetales. So like,
yeah.
and like the examples sort of keep going. Like, even Stunfisk didn't get a lot of
Mhm,
use, but we
mhm,
saw Dialap get top 8
mhm.
with it.
Yeah.
Typhlosion, not a
Mhm,
Pokemon that many people were using at all, but
mhm,
2 individual players both made top cut with the
mhm.
Typhlosion. And so the core meta was there, but there was just a lot of variety sort of all around the place that
Yeah.
was all coming together on various people's teams, which to
Mhm.
make keep things a little bit interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I think the most interesting one, although maybe not, it's not like an outlier of a Pokemon. So like you got Tomahawk UK's team, which is like very very stock standard, and then you got the Alola Ninetales. But I quite liked Ashton Ash's team because it did have your classic Azumarill. It did have Purified Sableye.
Did.
Instead of the Shadow that most people are opting for now, and then ran Shadow Primate, which I thought was pretty cool, something that is different from the usual pick of Annihilate. And Clodsire, obviously, yes. But the other, and then Guzzlord, but then Corviknight. I haven't seen Corviknight
Mhm.
in ages.
Yeah, Corviknight has not had a lot of success in the championship series at all. It's all been pretty middling. I'm still, tabulating all of those top 8 finishes,
Mm-hmm.
and Corviknight's still pretty low. I think this makes its 4th, maybe
Mm.
top 8 finish since it's been released. So I know that Ash Nash said on the broadcast that he sort of took this team from Iamero, who
Mhm.
has done pretty well in the past. Didn't do as well in this tournament, but I will say he's doing pretty well in Monterey this weekend, I believe.
Mm, mm.
I don't know if they're running the same team or not,
Yeah.
but yeah, Ashton Ash took the team from Iamero and
Mhm.
actually swapped out the Shadow Sableye for his Purified Sableye. It isn't
Mhm.
running Return; it is the Power Gem Sableye.
Oh, okay.
But it was a very cool team to see
Mhm.
Ashton Ash piloting. Like
Mhm.
I saw a lot of people say this, and it's true. He was making Corviknight look good. It was kind of like interesting.
Mm-mm.
Maybe it's back, maybe it's not. But Guzzlord was a pretty nice read as well. He
Mhm.
managed. I sort of only realized this while we were recording the last Battle Cats episode, but I think it's really true, and I'll probably keep saying this to the end of time. Um, Ashton Ash seems to be one of the, like, in the realm of inadequates, one of the greatest mind readers in terms of team composition out there.
Mm.
Whereas for inadequates, it feels like it's almost bread and butter to him,
Yeah.
where he just knows exactly what his opponents are thinking,
Mhm.
um, and it's like pure talent. Ashton Ash, maybe it's just his vibe where he's just
Mhm.
sort of like so chill, but like he sort of sits there and it almost feels like it's not like it's effortless, but like it just
Mm-mm.
kind of happens. Like he just,
Yeah.
he'll bring a Guzzlord and then it happens to be, leading to a Claydol. And he's
Yeah.
just like, cool.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, I know there's like significant talent underlying it, but he just makes it
Mhm.
look so chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very good at understanding what is about to come at him. And
Mhm.
he does pretty well at calling it with some like, not like he's an alignment player per se, but I
Mm-mm.
know that at LAIC, he used Alolan Sandslash, and they were kind of
Mhm.
like, someone on the broadcast asked him, this other player says that Alolan Sandslash is an alignment Pokemon. Do you agree? After he just got this big win with Alolan Sandslash, and Ashton
Yeah.
Ash was like, yeah, I agree. He's it's an alignment Pokemon. So it was like, look, I think he knows what he's doing, and he's very, very
Mm.
good at it. And he had a team that really just exploited quite a few things running around, and the Primate worked really well for him. The Corviknight worked really well for him. The Guzzlord was working really well for him. So
Mm.
it was a very cool team to watch. And we've said it before, but I'm a big Ash and Ash fan, so
Mm-mm.
very happy to see his successes as well.
Yeah. No, I think he might be doing like a fishy legs too in regards to Corviknight. Popular before it becomes popular.
All right, we'll see if that ends up being the case. I know there've been a few more Corviknights running around, but I'm not sure if they're actually succeeding
Mm-mm.
in those hands or not. But I will say, and I thought about segueing away, but before deciding to yap a little bit more about Ashton Ash,
Okay.
but the Sableye running Power Gem, this was a
Mm.
bit of a one of the biggest differences where even though the same Pokemon were being used all over the place, Sableye moveset was actually quite variable from team to team. Even people running the exact same, people running the out of pocket squad. Some of them were
Mm-mm.
running Dazzling Gleam, some of them were running Power Gem. Out of
Yeah.
pocket was on team Dazzling Gleam.
Mhm.
Sableye on Nighttime Clashes team was running Power Gem, for example.
Right.
Um, and so it was kind of just, I guess I haven't put a lot of thought into it, and I haven't
Mhm.
quite gotten to the bottom of which one feels the best to me.
Mhm.
Um, One thing that people say with respect to Dazzling Gleam is that obviously it gives you really good, dark type coverage.
Yes.
And when there's someone like Ashton Ash running around with a Guzzlord, you really
Mhm.
want to have that Dazzling Gleam.
Mm.
I know that Caleb Peng on the broadcast was talking about how out of pocket kind of only his last game of day one, he
Mhm.
landed a Dazzling Gleam onto a Malamar to sort of secure the,
Yeah.
pathway to day two. So there's definitely a lot of value in Dazzling Gleam on that front.
Correct.
Power Gem sort of runs at the argument where foul play does enough for you anyway. So when you
Mhm.
when you're in the Sableye mirror match, for example, foul
Mhm.
play, it's really quick and it does quite a bit of damage anyway. Malamar, same story, in that it's not like the worst move to be throwing
Mhm.
of all time anyway. You're at least doing some amount of damage there, and it's quite quick, so it adds up pretty nicely. It's got the same pacing as Malamar even, and
Mhm.
so I don't I don't know where I land personally on the
Yeah.
Dazzling Gleam versus Power Gem. We'll see if there's sort of an answer. I mean, you could say that Out of Pocket solved it because Dazzling Gleam performed the best out of the Sableyes in this tournament.
Mhm.
But Power Gem came third, Power Gem came fourth, Power Gem came fifth, Dazzling Gleam came fifth as well. So
Yeah.
it's that seems to be where there's quite a split. And
Mhm.
there's also a split on Alolan Sandslash, which again, massive usage rate, but a real big split between Powder Snow and Shadowclaw.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, like you said, just really interesting. Same Pokemon, just different moveset. I don't know where I fall on in regards to Sableye, but I know Power Gem hits hard.
Well, they all hit hard. Although Ashton Ashes hits a little less hard being a non-shadow, I guess. But I've actually just looked in the top 8. There's 6 Alolan Sandslash, 3 have Powder Snow, 3 have Shadow Claw. So it's there are still customization builds inside of the move sets, I guess. Maybe it's worth doing a breakdown at some point between them. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I think there's some things where like the Shadow Claw one performs better into Pokemon like Azumarill. Powder Snow gives you better matchups into Pokemon like Credilli. So it depends what you're planning to see, what you're thinking your team needs, I suppose. But it's something that I'll put some more thought into later, but I don't really have the answers as we're talking
Can
right
ask
now,
Rick
I
about
suppose.
it.
But true. Yeah. Rick, our sort of expert Alolan Sandslash man, I guess, as well, with some sometimes different move sets. But yeah, definitely a cool tournament to sort of see unfold. Biggest tournament again of all time on the regional circuit at the very least, and not a lot of like. I think we've actually hit on most of the sort of surprising picks or the interesting picks in the top 16. Was there anything that you wanted to hit on that we haven't hit on that side of the forest?
No, I think we've pretty much covered most things that were in the top 16. Like again, there's a few little outliers, like you mentioned. I think there was like 3 Furrets, the Corviknights, a couple of Typhlosions. El Calvissimo did run a Superior. And then Capine ran a Gastrodon, which I feel like has fallen to the wayside. But yeah, just those little picks. But otherwise, yeah, pretty stock standard. We're definitely seeing the meta solidify in like at least 5 mons out of the 6. Those people are picking. It's like I've seen this before.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's the way to go. I did like watching Capine battle as well. He took down some heavy hitters in both Elite and Wadage, and was not necessarily a battler that I knew a lot about beforehand, but did really well this weekend, and it was cool to watch him succeed as well. But
Yeah, I think most people didn't know what he looked like because his YouTube videos don't have face cam.
yeah,
Very like a Jonkus kind of situation. No one knew what it looked like until he like came on regionals and they're like, oh.
yeah. I'll admit I actually didn't know that he had a YouTube channel until someone mentioned it earlier this week. That was new information to me, and that's one of those things where like it sort of talks to the internet, right? Where someone can have this YouTube channel with millions of subscribers, tens of millions of subscribers, and you'll talk to a friend and mention them, and they're like, "Who?"
Yeah.
Even though Pokemon Go is sort of a small community, it can be pretty similar here as well, I guess, where like, especially in GBL content where I don't consume much of it, like people can very easily, YouTube channels just won't be on my radar, I suppose, on that front. But
Yeah.
um,
I just have a lack of time. So when I've got like locals and be like, oh, have you seen the latest like Home Slice Henry video? I'm like, no, the man produces hit videos like 3 times a day.
yeah, most of the content I consume is not Pokemon content. I'll be pretty upfront with that one.
Yeah. But it's usually the little kids. So they're like, watching it after school. So they're getting their like GBL PvP content and then they're playing and then they're crack battlers because they're just consuming that. That's all they're consuming. They're not watching TV anymore. They're just consuming that kind of content.
I mean, you are describing me, except I just don't click onto Pokemon content. Like, I'm not watching TV, that's for sure. I
I
haven't
still
watched
got the
TV in a
news going.
decade. That TV is a gaming console. That's where the Xbox plugs in. That's all it is. That's, not a television device. But anyway, shout out to K-Pine as well. I guess you can find him on YouTube at K-Pine. So go check his videos out as well. But that is Atlanta. That is sort of the big tournaments. And of course, Monterey is this weekend. It is currently ongoing. I suspected that it would finish while we're recording. I haven't checked up on it, but it will not finish up, but day one probably finishes up while we're recording. I saw that there were a lot of groups that were finished a little while ago. So we might, by the end of the recording, we might see a Dracoviz graphic of the
Maybe.
top. Because it has actually hit the 256 mark, like at least in registrations, I think they actually were planning on having a top 32 top cut, which is the first time that we've hit that in a regional, I suppose. So we'll see if that is how it plays out. But yeah, maybe we'll have some news, I guess. I know that Ashton Nash did hit day 2 as well. I've been kept tabs on that one, shot him a message. And then there's people like Out of Pocket. Actually, I think Out of Pocket might have been knocked out of the tournament already after his second place finish. Nighttime Clasher qualified for day 2 as well. And last I checked, Sustenance Eater was still battling on. But we can check in on that a little bit later, perhaps, unless you've got, I know that you're Googling away. If you've got like updates.
Out of Pocket went 2-2.
Out of Pocket went 2-2, yeah.
Yeah. Nighttime Clasher is on 3 wins currently.
I think it's technically 2 wins because one of them was a no-show. So I think Nighttime, he also got a round 1 bye because of his seeding. So I think Nighttime Clasher essentially 2-0'd into day 2. So
very nice. Sustenance Eater is on 2-2. So.
Okay, so we got knocked out.
Yeah, knocked out.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyone else you'd like me to check?
No, I'm not actually 100% sure all of the people competing. I think I saw that Dunebug qualified for day 2 as well. But yeah, we'll talk about Monterey in the next episode, whenever that does sort of happen. And also this weekend are the Indonesia qualifier and the South Korea finals, as we talked about before. So big weekend for Pokemon Go. And following this weekend, we will see the release of Tinkaton as well. So
yay, hatch those Tinkatinks.
Oh yeah. I don't think I've ever, even when Rookidee came out, I didn't really grind eggs, but for this Tinkaton, I was like, all right, we'll get some Tinkaton action. So we need it for the content.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
So I was very much looking forward to Tinkaton. I quite like Tinkaton. I always thought it had good coverage, being fairy and steel, and it has a massive hammer. I was just like, cool, you're badass.
Definitely speaks to Debbie's proclivities in terms of what she's looking for in a Pokemon.
I mean, I deliberately bought I don't buy things usually in game, but I definitely bought the research so I could have the pose with the hammer. I was like, yay.
It all checks
you get
out.
2 encounters. So I was like, oh, well, that saves me like pressuring myself to try and hatch an egg and like a 25% chance of getting it, or 25% chance.
Yeah, well, it's sort of the expected value of 8 eggs, right? So, it's decent value if you're going Tinkaton hunting. It is interesting that, and this has been brought up a lot, that lore-wise, Tinkaton hunts down Corviknights, whereas in Pokemon Go PvP, Corviknight is just a hard counter to Tinkaton that has no chance. You've got the super effective sand attack, and you've got absolutely nothing on Tinkaton's end to hit it at all. So it's pretty rough for it.
Look, I played Scarlet and Violet, where like Tinkatink and Tinkaton is available with Corviknight and everything, and it doesn't do that well against it anyway. It's just part of the lore. It's just more like it's a menace. It will try and get Corviknights, and the Corviknights are just like, what are you doing here?
It feels like, because you're right. I've heard people talk about the VGC where it's very similar in terms of the Tinkaton is no good into Corviknight as well. And it feels like if that's the lore that you're going to construct, surely you could, bring some sort of, even just a moveset, right, that could actually hit the thing. But not at all. It's totally dead in the water.
It's like a little sibling. Like Corviknight's the bigger brother. The little sibling's just like, I'm going to take you down. And it's like just holding its head. Like, just with a finger. Just like,
I feel like that's like the cute way to put it. But its hammer is built out of Corviknight pieces. Like it has killed Corviknights. They are dead. They've taken the dead pieces of Corviknight and constructed their hammer. I don't know, man. I feel like there's something missing there. But anyway, let's pivot a little bit to Australia. We'll talk about some other stuff in a little bit as well. But we don't have any regional updates other than the Melbourne Regional Championships has passed 50 registrations.
Sign up if you haven't.
There are only 64 spots. So there are literally less than 15 spots right now. They're not going to release more for Pokemon Go. It's like they've sort of done their last increases of Rego. They've confirmed the 64 cap. If
Mhm.
you have not and you are going to compete in Melbourne, register right now. I do not want to see anyone complain about not hitting, oh, it capped out and I didn't get to register. I'm not going to have any sympathy. Like, it'll be zip
You know what's
coming
gonna
out of me.
happen, right? It's gonna cap out, and then you'll see your cover bitch be like, "Oh man."
Look, he's already said he's not going to be
Yeah,
competing,
he
but
already said he's not
he
doing,
he
but
will
it'll be
say
funny.
something like that.
It'll be funny.
But yeah, even if he were to say it, no sympathy out of my end. But
No, no.
is what it is. We'll see how it goes. Register if you haven't already. But I guess
Mhm.
the other front is locals. And
Mhm.
Debbie, you haven't been to any locals since the last episode, have you?
No, well, in the Perth local scene, we've taken quite a bit of a break because most of
Mm.
our locals, actually, oh, not most, like the top hitting ones went over to Brisbane. So we had Z-Tub, we had They Love Jai, we had Advrip that were competing in Brisbane. So, and April being a bit of a hard month given that we have Easter and Anzac Day, we actually haven't had any locals since until yesterday. So it's been about almost like 3 weeks that we haven't had any locals. Everyone's just taken a big break from post regional. So yeah, yesterday there were 4 players down in Rockingham. The one Z-Tub took it out, and They Love Jai coming in second. And yeah, most of our cups and challenges are very compressed into the next couple of whatever we can cram into April and then into May. Since there won't be any locals in June, they have confirmed that that will be a local free month.
Yeah, and I suppose it's been similar errand as well. April is certainly showing up to be the quiet month, which
Hmm.
is very different to how it was. Like, I mean, I say last season, but last season was the first season we had locals, and they
Yeah,
only started in April,
yeah.
or April or March,
I think it
March maybe.
was March, but it
Yeah,
was
I think it was March
very
actually.
late notice. But yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because it was announced sort of that Melbourne weekend in
yeah,
February.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, we only started in March. So April was actually quite a busy month on the local
Mm-mm-mm.
front, while everyone was sort of, getting set up and whatnot. But yeah, pretty quiet when you've got a bit more planning time. So
Mhm,
I expect a lot more locals in that sort of, well, we saw a lot in March and then
mhm,
May. We'll probably see a bit of a resurgence. I did attend one, double header, a cup and challenge
mhm.
hosted by Lord Kai. And I'll be
Yes.
honest, I I used it as a content. It was a
You
content trip.
you using that for content? Excuse me.
What can I say? Yeah, I did not go in with competitive notions in
Believe it.
mind. I decided to go in with a theme. And so both of my teams for the cup and the challenge had a bet or an illegal Pokemon on
Illegal.
each of the two teams. Wee wee! Call the Pokemon police. Get Officer Jenny out here because I should be in some trouble. Because so first off, we had the cup
Mhm,
where I ran Xerneas.
mhm,
Now, for those
mhm.
that don't know, did we talk? I don't think we talked about
No,
Xerneas.
not here.
No, we didn't talk about it. So it's in the Go Pass. You can trade it to below 1500, but the Go Pass isn't available all around the world. The US doesn't have it. Japan doesn't have it. There's a lot of places around the world that don't have it because they're just testing it. So they only gave it to certain regions. And I'm pretty confident that Niantic oopsied it and they did not mean to release Xerneas as Grey
Guess who's
League
in a testing
eligible.
region?
Yeah, this is the first time that like a testing has been a win, I guess. But they then quickly super banned it. So it's in the same category as Ditto and Shedinja in that you
Mhm,
literally can't choose it in the sort of
mm-mm.
PvP battle screen.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be funny to put it on my team of 6.
Mhm.
Turned out that generally that knowledge had not gotten out. They
Oh,
were they were pretty surprised that Xerneas was even Great League eligible, to be honest with you. They're like, oh,
yeah.
how do you get it? And I was like, oh, this is how. And they're like, oh, okay. And so I was sitting there like, yes, because at least if they don't know that I can't use Xerneas, they might prepare for it. I don't know. One of my locals, Sesh Ketchum, did. He was sort of like, "Oh man, I went strong into Xerneas one of those games." I was like, "Score!" It didn't help me. I absolutely bombed the tournament. I mean, when you've only got 5 Pokemon, that's gonna happen, I guess. But
Well, Elcho.
Elche, PvP Steve.
Mm.
It happens. It happens. But yeah, so that was that one, and then I did make a video of that one, which popped off, by the way. Like I put it on the PvP Josh channel, but it got like
Mhm.
1,300 views. It was like, oh,
Wow.
it's like crazy for that channel. It's got like
Mhm.
80 subscribers. But anyway,
Yeah.
then challenge, I decided to run a Pokemon that isn't technically banned, but it should be, in that
Mm.
it is Sork with Body
Mhm.
Slam.
Mhm.
Which,
Mhm.
for those that don't know, Sork is not supposed to learn Body Slam in the main series game. So I decided to fit it in before it gets sort of super banned by play Pokemon, in the same way that, like, Quick Attack Pichu and other random Pokemon that aren't supposed to learn moves, Acid
Mhm.
Muck.
Mhm.
Um, I expect that it will eventually get put in that ban list,
Mhm.
and then, we will have run another illegal mon, I guess. So
That's when the next video comes out.
yeah, I'm holding on to the footage. I've got it. But
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, we'll see if it ever sees the light of day whenever that ban does come through. But yeah, I was just having some fun with it. I did pretty bad. I was running Sork on the stall team. So it
Well, you
literally,
you
like, the
you
stall team
wanted a
was
fighter on
already
the
sort
soul
of,
team, didn't you?
I wanted one. I never used Sork because it was so bad. It's got Poison Jab as a fast move instead of, like, it's like, if you had counter, this would be so usable. I would have actually used it quite a few times. I mean, I was facing Taj, who had a Bastiodon, so it was like,
Come on,
um,
poison jab.
yeah, it wasn't the source, unfortunately. So
Mhm.
still fun time, and good to see the local guys as well. Haven't
Mhm.
competed in a little while on
Mhm.
the local scene, so because there hasn't been a lot of local tournaments, to be
Yeah,
fair. But
and also
yeah,
it takes you like, a 6-hour round trip.
yeah, it does eat up some of my day, to say the least. But
Mhm.
I suppose with that, we also, in that same tournament, did have the return of Nautical, which means that it is time for Nautical Corner. But something a bit more special today, Debbie, because
Mhm.
Nautical, he didn't have his team sheets when he rocked up to the local.
That is correct, unfortunately. So Nautical, if you're a listener to the podcast, you would know that Nautical is a young lad. So when he attends the local tournaments, he's accompanied by his dad. Now, Nautical did his artwork, got his team sheet, everything ready, passed it to his dad, and was like, "Bring these tomorrow to the tournament." Guess what happened? Dad forgot and left the sheets at home. Therefore, not only do we have Nautical corner, it's Nautical Dad corner today.
That's right. To make up for his sins, I suppose, Nautical's dad actually drew the team, like, on the spot. He was like, so they printed off the formal local team sheet
Mhm,
using the Dracoviz sort of team thingo that
mhm,
we use to fill in our locals, and he gave it a go. So
mhm,
again, apologies to the Spotify and audio listeners, but maybe check out the video version, because I'm going to pull up on my end.
mhm,
You can see his regular team at the top, but here was his sort of his dad's take on the Pokemon.
mhm,
Um, so you can see the Morpeko slash Post Bug.
uh-huh,
We've got Primeape, Talonflame, which I love the Talonflame drawing.
mhm,
We've got
mhm.
Jumpluff by Luke's dad specifically, or Jummerpluff, as a Jummathy reference on that one. And then also the Clodsire and the Malamar, which
Mhm.
I quite like on all fronts.
Yeah,
But it wasn't
these
just
are great.
that was the Cup team, I think.
Mhm, mhm,
And so we did also have the challenge team,
mhm,
which we can sort of see, again, Dedenne and Dead NA,
uh-huh,
which
uh-huh,
feels very nautical
mhm,
in
mhm,
terms of the humor there. We've got the Excadrill, we've got the Gudra, and then nautical is sort of taking pictures while it was in progress. And so we have
uh-huh.
sort of the update of number 3, where he drew
Ah,
Superior, and I thought he wrote on this sheet somewhere, but maybe he didn't. Maybe it was somewhere else and I missed it. But
mhm.
he sort of wrote, I don't know what these Pokemon look like. I'm just drawing them based on the Drake of his pictures up top. So, anyway,
Pretty good
cool to
free
see.
man.
Yeah, pretty solid. So,
Mm, mm, mm.
we love to see it. Bit of a different Nautical's corner this week. So,
Yeah,
shout
talent
out
runs in the
to
family.
Nautical and his dad.
Mhm,
Yeah, clearly Nautical got it from somewhere. But
mhm,
obviously, that's all a bit of fun. But we had some other, some little bits to talk about as well.
mhm,
Actually, I think we ticked on both of the one. Tinkerton is
mhm.
legal as of Tuesday, and Zerny
Yes.
is banned. So we
Mhm.
actually hit that entire bullet point off the dock entirely,
Well, that's
which
what
just
I was
means
referring to when about Corviknight, because I feel like now that Tinkerton is going to be eligible from Tuesday. I feel like Corviknight's going to also go up as well. So, um,
Yeah, that's actually
what
a great point.
what I've been doing, I've put within Pokemon Go, you can put notifications for a certain Pokemon to pop up, so that you know that they're in the area. And Rookidee is currently in the wild, as a very
As of
rare
yesterday,
spawn. Yeah.
for
Oh,
the
actually,
first
as of
time.
It's today, Sunday. I think it was as of Friday at 10 a.m. So
Oh,
from
really?
yeah, so it's a rare spawn, but it can spawn wild Rookidee. So I've put it as a notification on my phone so that um when it pops up, it like gives me a little bit of a ping. I hate notifications, but I will do it for for like a good IV
Yeah.
Rookidee.
Yeah, that's sort of the bit that's held me up as well. In that, like, when they announced the feature, I was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" Like, it shows
Yeah.
up at the top of your nearby. Like, that's
Mhm,
a
mhm.
really cool feature. And then it was actually a notification feature, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I
Yeah.
want that." I've sort of built my phone in a way that my notifications are super limited. I only see
Yes.
what's inside an app when I open the app.
Yeah.
I don't get Discord pings unless I'm in Discord. I don't see
Mhm.
tweets unless I'm in Twitter, right? It's
Yeah.
all built that way, and I like it that way.
Yeah.
Because I talk about this a lot, but I'm not special. I know that my brain is susceptible to all of the same algorithms and, tricks and, whatever else that they get
Mhm.
to make us spend time on our phone. And so I just want to acknowledge that and go like, okay, how can I structure it all so that I
Mm-mm.
don't fall into the pits?
Yeah.
Because as soon as I'm in there, I'm gone. Like
Yeah.
I don't use TikTok because I know how awesome it would be.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah. As soon as the algorithm learns what you like, and suddenly like, oh my gosh.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I try and stay out of it. And so
Mhm.
like obviously this is a little different. Maybe it's got some use, but I don't know. I still
I think
might
it's
not do it.
temporary because it's
Hmm.
specifically for this. For the, I don't know how long it's going to be in wild spawns for, but if it's
Yeah.
available now and that it's notified, I'm like, okay, get some rookies because like most of the my locals, I'm really good friend, like best friends with in game.
Mm.
So even if I trade, they're not going to be PvP IVs. So my
Yeah.
best bet is actually wild spawns. Um,
I guess. I'll think about it. I'll think about it.
I
Ugh,
mean, if you've already got like a good Rookidee that can
I
evolve
don't.
into a Corvin, oh, okay then. Well,
I d-
and then you get candy as well. You don't have to like limit all those resources.
yeah. I
Chuck
did
a
a lot of.
mega three, whatever, something to get an extra candy.
Yeah. I guess. Anyway,
Mm.
we'll see. But look, I guess in much brighter news, we can, and it's not Pokemon Go, but we're both here, so it's at least time to celebrate the fact that our Pokemon Unite team, Debbie and the Pebbles, did just land another top 8 in this month's tournament, which means that we have qualified for the Pokemon Unite Regional Championships by being in the
Let's
top 12.
go.
Let's go. Now the official Pokemon Unite account did tweet out like a little while ago, like a month and
Uh-huh.
a half ago. Maybe
Uh-huh.
it was last month sometime.
Mhm.
A graphic of like the current top 12 teams in every region, and we were made the cut. We were on their official little video,
Uh,
and I assume they will make another one for the actual like final top 12 teams competing, like qualifying for regionals. So I expect another Debbie and the Pebbles shout out on the official Unite channels, which is kind of sick.
uh, I- it's just like I remember having that, like you and I having the thought of being like, oh, it'd be funny, like to have a Unite team or like do Unite or like, yeah, let's try and get to Worlds. To this point where we're just like, oh, it's come this far now. We're on the graphic.
That's actually true because like we talked about it so long ago. Like this
Yeah,
was I think was it at the 2023 Worlds
it
that
would
it
have been
got?
Yokohama. I think we've like thought
Yeah.
about it because we saw the Unite squad first and we're like, hey, that looks cool. Wait, they
Yeah.
get how much prize money? That's more than Go.
Yeah. So actually that is the first reference. And then I think there was one stream maybe that like I feel like Wade was in chat or something like
Mhm,
that, and
mhm.
the idea sort of like re-popped up, and it was like, oh, we
Mm,
could just do
mm.
that actually.
Yeah.
We could were we on a call maybe playing Unite? Did that happen? Or
Yeah, I think it was possibly a sponsored one, where you might have had a code.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, I'm not sure, but
Darkrai kind
anyway,
of popped into mind, but
yeah, I'm not sure what it might have been,
mhm.
but look, I'm very happy that we've only taken it this far. We'll be competing at the one and only regional championship. This is the only way that we can qualify for Worlds other than winning an IC, I think. So it won't happen, obviously, but it's fun. it's kind of funny that we're there. But anyway, just wanted to shout that out quickly, seeing as, hey, this is the G'day Battlers podcast, and 2 of our squad is right here. So.
The name is practically Debbie and the Pebbles.
Yeah, it is called Debbie and the Pebbles, even though this is Debbie's first time actually competing, because usually she's working, but this was a public holiday weekend. So glad it all worked out on that front. But
I'm glad to score some points for my team.
Thanks, Debbie. You did well. But that does bring us to the YouTube comments from the last episode, and there's a couple in here. So
okay.
We've got one from Hawk Aussie, who is also on the squad. Didn't compete this weekend. He was off playing TCG instead. But he says, so that is why you were both streaming at the same place. I thought you were both at Brisbane when you streamed on that Monday night. Fair guess, to be fair. But yeah, we were in Newcastle at the time.
Yeah.
Also, Fudge Stall, especially when you had to take on one in the TCG Cup that I competed in. Stall is awesome, man. This is the wrong podcast to start talking negative about stall tactics. We're pro stall all the way. T Westel, still waiting for Steve to reply to my DM and tell me what time the Brisbane stream starts. Yeah, I don't. So in the last episode, the one before, you were sort of like, message Steve, ask him what time the stream's on. He'll tell you. And, no one did. Phew, thank God.
Yeah.
But then, after Brisbane already happened, he messaged me saying, hey, he only just watched the podcast that we recorded before. He was like, hey, when does the stream start? And I was so confused. I was like, what are you on about? And he was like, brother, the podcast. And I went, oh. But yeah, I didn't tell him, and I won't tell him because that was your promise, not mine.
True.
Tristan continues. Poor Rick always gets roasted on this podcast. No, not Rick.
No.
Come on. Rick, this is a safe space for Rick Flareon.
Yeah.
Woo! We would never talk about his charges.
No, not at all. We wouldn't make videos about undercharging at all.
Like videos with thousands and thousands of views taking a dig at the man.
Yeah, constantly referenced now and into the law about overcharging and undercharging.
Nah, that doesn't sound like me, man.
No. We'll put a clip of his world's undercharging moment in there in the beginning.
Nah.
And
they're truly I couldn't think of a better one. I literally asked. I think we talked about this at the time, but when I was making that video, I was like, look, I want a clip of a really good undercharge and I want a clip of a less good undercharge. And so I was like, okay, well, the one I know about the Rick Flareon one, and I know about the Elche one because the Pokemon accounts actually tweeted it out.
Yeah.
And then I went and watched a few other undercharging videos around, and Caleb Peng used those exact 2 videos.
He did.
And so I was like, oh, well, I don't want to just copy that one. I want to be a little different. And so I looked around and I asked people, I was like, hey, does anyone have any good clips? And I got crickets. And so I was like, well, I'm using the same 2 clips. Nothing I can do, I guess. So, if Rick Flareon can point me at someone else with, another bad undercharge to use, I'll happily replace it. But alas. But Tristan did continue. I'm mad you guys didn't get paired in the
went down by 1.
Oh, he already said he unsubscribed on the.
Okay.
But I'm mad you guys didn't get paired in the cup and have a taste of your own medicine with the stall strats. Would have been awesome, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But so what I'm hearing is that the Perth airport is much better than the Newcastle one. Depends what sort of how you're qualifying that statement, I suppose.
Yeah.
Depends what makes it good.
I kind of forgot this part. Justice for Perth. Hashtag Justice for Perth. Hashtag New Eastlander segment, please. Look, we're not having a New Eastlander segment.
Yeah, because Debbie loves Newcastle. I mean, she tweeted about moving here twice.
Once was April Fool's. Second, I lost a bet.
Dang right you did. Last string of comments from our one and only patron, Ann Emma. So thanks again, Anne, for supporting the podcast.
Thanks, Anne.
Comment from the YouTube algorithm. Debbie says chaos occurred. Steve smiles. That checks out. But No one's surprised, Steve. It's a little chaos nugget. OG Steve, can we have one trip where no technology nearly gets left behind / stolen of yours, please? Well, even when that doesn't happen, we have chaos in some sense. Something goes
Yeah.
wrong. So
It's bound to happen. And if it doesn't happen, I'm kind of like, it's going to happen.
yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
There's actually a back and forth between Anne and Hawk Aussie in here a little bit. So
Oh, okay.
Hawk Aussie just mentioned all of my problems in various, wrong Melbourne airport, the Perth hospital trip, the luggage not coming along, just he's giving a bit of a lore update in the comments, I guess.
Yeah.
Whoopsies.
True.
But this is talking about Japan. Debbie being a pest, I can get behind it. As the resident pest for most people, welcome in. Please pick up a map and a beverage. Head to the right for orientation. Maybe I saw the map word and I was like, oh, maybe it's to do with the skulking around Japan, but I guess that's maybe not true.
Nope.
But last comment, Breezy stream, excellent. Debbie's outfit, flawless. Chef's kiss. You actually did get a lot of compliments in the stream chat. I don't know if you went back and saw it all, but it's quite a bit.
I've been watching. If I watched the recap on YouTube, because I was like,
because it's so much better.
Yeah. I'm just like, Twitch replays, that's terrible.
Yeah. I suffered through the Twitch one because I read every single chat message. So if you typed a single message in chat, I did see it. But it's all gone now.
Yeah.
And looking forward to seeing the Melbourne ensemble, Melbourne stream, eagerly anticipating
don't expect
more.
that. Debbie hasn't planned anything.
Well, look, we'll see if we get a stream, I suppose. But look, that is the podcast, I think. Any final words out of you?
No, I think all good to go ahead. I mean, again, for those that are listening and within the Oceania region and that have not registered for Melbourne, get onto it.
Please.
Because Steve will laugh at you. And
I will.
Is the worst.
Like, it is 100% your fault, and I will make it known. I ended my line on that one. We've officially passed the point where, after 2 regionals have capped, you can't be surprised that this one caps. So
yeah.
You can't even give that benefit of the doubt that those North Americans got, and they're like, oh, it didn't even get close to capping last year. What the heck? This one capped last year, so expect it to cap again. It's the same cap.
Capped last year. Brisbane got capped. This will get capped. So 14 away. It's
get in now.
That could go in a blink. So
do
it. If you don't, then
that's on you.
Yeah, that's
GG's, I guess.
And if you're whining on Twitter or on Discord, we'll just play our sad violins for you.
Yeah. Now we have to make sure that we don't get to the point where we're whining about it more than So hopefully this is the last time we mention it, but we will see how it all does go. But with that said, thank you for tuning in, and YouTube watchers. Thanks for popping in over here as well.
Thank you.
I feel like I looked at the camera a lot less this time than I do usually, but hey, my eyes were darting around everywhere. But subscribe to G'day Battlers on all of the things, the YouTube channel. Even if you don't listen over there, it does help support us. We'd like to get that number up. The Twitter, and leave us a review if you're so inclined on various platforms as well.
Please do. Go watch some of Steve's videos. There's my plug. I haven't done one today. Here you go.
We almost got through without I mean, I guess I mentioned the Xerneas video, I suppose.
True.
So maybe that probably counts.
Yeah.
It's not even a good video. You shouldn't watch it, to be honest with you. It's not that good. It's pretty much a bait. I never use Xerneas because I can't use Xerneas. So what? It's just kind of it's a funny thing that happened. The video doesn't really give you much. So
look, we mentioned your Xerneas video. We
don't watch that
Diggersby. We mentioned the Charming Pori run. There's a few to catch up on.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But
yeah. Unite video.
Yeah, Debbie's making videos as well. But with that said, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. But bye.